Hello again, you sick, twisted weather freaks, and welcome to another fun-filled, action-packed, and intellectually stimulating edition of This Week in Weather. I'm your host and meteorologist, DT, from Weather Risk, the Colonel of Confusion, the Captain of Catastrophe, the Commander of Chaos. And let's do This Week in Weather. We took a month off here in the month of March. A lot of stuff going on in the news, I guess we all know about. So now that everybody's home and we're moving into the spring season finally, we can start doing the This Week in Weather. So we'll be doing every Sunday evening now from now on. So during the Sunday evening hours. So let's get started. We had a lot to talk about here. First, let me just show you a picture of my smiling face in Richmond, Virginia. There's the email you want to reach me, and then of course this is the old Twitter account here, but I just changed it now to weather at for Virginia, North Carolina, Maryland, Delaware. So, I just changed the title of it there. And then, of course, the Facebook page. All right, let's talk about our topics here. Now, our topics are going to be temporary pattern flip. Obviously, that's going to be the big news here. We have another big New England storm coming up and also for Southeast Canada this April 9th and 10th, if you can believe that. And then also possible major Appalachian or East Coast storm on April 12th, right behind that one. And then a significant freeze for the Ohio Valley, and then potentially the Appalachians and the Mid-Atlantic. Now, a lot of the vineyards and the fruit farms have already had bud break because of the warm temperatures, and the warm temperatures we're having today on this Sunday, April 5, and then going for the next several days is only going to make things more of a problem because the early fruit, the early vegetation is going to come out with all the warm sunshine and warm temperatures, and then they're going to have this frost potential here around April 15th or 16th. So a lot to talk about here. So let's get right to it. Okay, folks. Now here is our plots for our upper air patterns, our teleconnections. So there's four of them that we look at. Here on the Atlantic side, let's do that first. So that's what we're talking about here. The Arctic Oscillation. You can see that right here in the upper left image. This is the Arctic Oscillation. There we go. And over here is the NAO. So as you can see, for most of the winter, this is January. You can see we're a little negative in December, but for all the winter, it was strongly positive. Of course, you notice in here, that was record positive. That's when we had that record strong Arctic Oscillation, the strongest on record ever in terms of the positive values, not just for the month of February, but since we've been keeping record of this sort of stuff. And now recently, as you can see right along here, it's actually gone down a little bit. We actually got back to neutral. And the bottom right here, this is the NAO, and again, for most of the winters, you can see since December, it's been persistently positive. Now, recently, look what's happened here. It's gone down negative, and that's because of a blocking pattern in northeastern Canada, Greenland, Baffin Island, and Hudson's Bay, which is raising the heights and forcing the NAO, the North American Oscillation, or the Greenland block, to develop. So that's one of the things. Now let's take a look at the Pacific side and see what's happening. Okay. This is the PNA pattern. Now the PNA, that's our ridge on the west coast. So when it's positive, you have a ridge on the west coast, pulls down cold air, makes it easier for storms to develop on the eastern United States. When it's negative, the storms are hitting California and the west coast, which they have been all winter. They've had record snows in the Cascades, Sierras, the Rockies, the Wasatch, the Bitterroots, and a lot of below normal temperatures. And then you have a ridge on the east coast where it's been warm. That's exactly what we've had all winter. You can clearly see that. Look at the upper left. This is the PNA here, and you can see for most of the winter it has been negative. And again, that means trough over the west coast. One of these patterns here where you get the trough. Let me get my marker up. There we go. A trough on the west coast and then a ridge like that. So that's what we've been seeing. Now, recently we've also seen with the EPO. Look at the EPO in here. All strongly positive. Now, you don't want that if you want a cold winter or a cold pattern and storms on the coast. EPO being positive means that you don't have a ridge in Alaska. So when the EPO goes negative like this, that means you have a bulge over Alaska pulling down the cold air. Now, ideally, you want to see this positive and this negative. As you can, we don't have that. So this is still negative, and this is negative. So we have a bit of a ridge, a supply of cold air. It's not a huge, and also the pattern on the west coast is split. And you'll see why in a second. So we have the northern branch, which is the EPO. There we go, pulling down the cold air from Alaska, but the trough on the west coast is still bringing the energy in into the west coast. So this is a potentially dangerous looking pattern. So let me show you what I mean. Now this is the temperatures here for Saturday. Look at these min temperatures in the Dakotas. You can see that. Look at these single digits on April. And there's no snow on the ground here, folks. Very little snow on the ground in the Dakotas, actually, right now. Just take a look at it. Look at northern Minnesota, okay? A lot of these also in teens. Teens in Nebraska. North, you had 20s in Texas, central west Kansas. Look at that. Iowa, Wisconsin. Now, of course, here in the eastern United States, it's much warmer. And look at the max temperatures on Saturday. Very cold for this time of year. Now, here in the eastern United States, ahead of the cold front, obviously our temperatures are much warmer, as you can see in here. But look how cold it was for max temperatures in April, the beginning of the growing season. So that's not a good sign for those guys. Now, in case this is Friday, let me show you what Friday's temperatures were. Look at the cold air in Canada Friday morning. Good googly moogly. Upper left image, focus on that, okay? And you can see, look at these temperatures. Wow. Sub-zero readings across all of Canada. Now, there is snow on the ground in southern Canada, so that is helping it. But you can see that cold air is pouring southward. And then look at the max temperatures on Friday. Again, staying in the 20s and 30s for max temperatures in the upper Dakotas, the upper plains really, and the western Corn Belt, the upper Mississippi Valley, all of south central Canada. So it was quite cold here, very distinct pattern here. Now, and that's because of the blocking pattern. So this is the jet stream map here as of this Sunday evening. So there you can see the block. I've highlighted it very clearly. You can see the blocking pattern over north central Canada into Hudson's Bay and Greenland. So let me show it to you in case you can't see it. There it is. Okay, and it actually extends into Greenland here a little bit, as you can see. We have an upper low over Greenland and another one here in the Gulf of Alaska. So what's happening is now there's our trough on the west coast. You also have an upper low. There's also another one right here. You can see that embedded in the trough. So this trough eventually is going to come eastward. Eventually. Right here. This is going to come eastward. For the time being, we have a ridge. And what's going to happen is several pieces of energy coming in here on the Pacific jet are going to be forced to go underneath the block. Going to have to go down this way and become a big storm. And eventually, one of these pieces of energy is going to meet up with that trough and become a big storm. That's what looks like it's going to happen. So let's take a look at this more detail. Now, these are the max temperatures coming up here for Tuesday. Look at the warm temperatures here in Virginia, the Carolinas. This is all a lot of sunshine here and warm temperatures, even to Chicago, 78 degrees, St. Louis, 82. This is virus inhibiting weather. If you get a lot of sunshine temperatures, low to mid 80s, this suppresses viruses if they're out on the surface. Now, of course, if somebody coughs on you and you're 2 feet away, that doesn't do anything. It can be 100 degrees outside. It's not going to change it. If somebody coughs on you and you get the microbes get onto you, you've got a problem. But in terms of like surfaces, playground, picnics, that sort of thing, the viruses, ultraviolet light, it gets destroyed if it's on surfaces. So that's the good news a little bit if these temperatures are correct, and I'm sure they are. Now this is the max temperatures on Wednesday, and again very warm in Virginia, down to the Carolinas, Georgia, Texas, Oklahoma. Look at those temperatures. St. Louis, Kansas City, very nice. But you can see the cold air coming out of. Remember the max temperatures. Look at those staying in the 40s in North Dakota, northern Minnesota. So there's a lot of cold air up there coming southward. All right, now what's going to happen to these teleconnections we talk about here? Let's take a look at the forecast. Okay, this is the Arctic Oscillation. Notice what it does. It gets down to almost neutral conditions. You can see right in here, April 10th, 11th, the 12th, and then it goes back up to being positive again. So whatever happens, it looks like the pattern may break down a little bit towards the end of April. We need this to come really far south, and it's not doing that. It's just going to dip down a little bit to neutral. Now the NAO, which is the Greenland block, it does get to neutral, negative right here. You can see it's slightly negative, and then it does go positive by towards the 15th or 20th of November. If we look on the Pacific side, there we go. You can see the P&A pattern. Remember we talked about that ridge, but when the P&A is negative, you have a trough on the west coast. As you can see, it briefly goes to neutral, and then it goes back to negative again. And the bottom right image is the Eastern Pacific Oscillation. So what happens is, as you can see, it goes briefly to neutral, and then it goes strongly negative and stays, climbs back towards neutral towards the end. So all this in here means that you have a strong ridge over Canada and northwest Alaska pulling down cold air. So it is a potentially very stormy pattern. So let's take a look at that. This is the upper air map from the European 60 hours out. So this is Tuesday when we have the warm temperatures going on here. The upper air map is actually showing something more ominous. So we have two upper lows. There's one, you can see it very clearly over southwest Canada. southeastern Canada. There it is, Newfoundland. That's known as your 50-50 low. This is a big thing you want to see for big storms on the East Coast. You want to have a piece there, and what happens is that forces energy coming in from Alaska and the West Coast to drop down further. So we have a big disturbance right here. I'm going to call this disturbance X1. Okay, it's a big feature right in this area right here. And there's another one here. And this is the upper low over California, the trough. So this first feature is going to come down underneath the 50-50 low in the block. See that? It's going to come underneath it. That's why you want to have both those features together. And then this one is also going to take even a further track, and it's going to meet up here. So this is now for, that was 60 hours. This is 102 hours. So now this is Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening. So what's happened is that, remember that upper low and that X1? Here, I'm going to show you quickly. There's the upper low, right? There's X1. They're going to have a party. And you can see that right here. Boom! There it is. Big upper low over Montreal, a coastal storm over New England, and then an upper low in open Labrador. So huge gyre of two 500 lows sitting right in here. You can see it. Look at this baby. Very impressive system. And of course, this is an upper low. We have two of them embedded in this feature. We have one upper low here, and the other one is there. Now here's our blocking feature. That hasn't gone away. It's still doing it. Okay. And then here's our next disturbance right in here. This is X2. Coming down this way, and there's the upper low in the trough. So this is going to come east, and this feature is going to come down and meet it, and that's when you're going to have the next big party. So this is what it looks like here, though. Let's take a look at this at 102 hours. This is Thursday. There it is, Thursday morning. You can see the two lows, the cold front coming through. This is some really cold air coming in here, folks. All this in here, and a lot of wind. Look at that wind coming down. Pretty impressive stuff. So snow in eastern Canada, Ontario, moving to Montreal, and then you have this second low here, and of course this low is going to reform right off the New England coast. So that's Thursday morning, and then this is boom. This is Thursday evening, and you can see the one low. I didn't draw the lows in here so you can see it more clearly. This low is dying off, and there's the new one bombing out in the Gulf of Maine. Okay, pulling down the cold air, and there's our big high right centered right here, pulling down the cold. So very impressive system for Maine and for eastern Canada. The cold front pushes through the east coast here, dropping the temperatures again, and then this is what it looks like. I believe this is going to be. Yeah, 126 hours. So this is now Friday. So this is the evening of this map here. There's the upper air map. And you can see there's our big system X1. The big has become a huge upper low. Very intense right here. There's X2. Okay, that next feature. And here's X3, the upper low over California, beginning to move into Arizona. And these two features are going to meet. And because of the block here, what's going to happen is X2 is going to come down here. And this one's going to come here. And they're going to form a nice big party right here and ruin everybody's Easter. That's what's going to happen. All right, slide 18. Okay, so now we can see this huge storm. There it is. There at the upper level low. This is Friday evening. See the blue over New Brunswick, Canada, right there. Now this is the surface map. Monster storm over New Brunswick. 968, 966. Are you kidding me for April? Are you freaking kidding me? But we're not. That's what the model is showing, and I think it's going to happen. It gets stuck underneath the block, and it bombs out, and it also develops, as you can see, a negative tilt. In case you're wondering, there's a negative tilt right here. So it is going to bomb out. There's no doubt about it. It's got all the signature to bomb out. So that's an impressive looking system. That's just going to, and look at the wind, all up and down from Maine all the way down to Virginia. Quite a bit of wind here and cold. Now, the temperatures, what happens? Okay, this is the next 5 days. Look at the cold air on the Canadian-U.S. border. Most of the country for the next 5 days, relatively warm because of, seeing temperatures like this on Wednesday into Thursday before the cold front hits. And then you can see the temperatures collapse. Okay, so now this is day 6. Now here comes X2 and X3. There it is. You can see it. The block is still there over northern Canada into Hudson's Bay, into Greenland, and the two features are going to meet. And you can clearly see that they are beginning to phase. You notice that X2 is beginning to drop into X3. See that? And then if we go to the upper, and then this map shows the anomaly. This is just the overall jet stream features to show you what the anomalies are. So you can see the block here in Canada a little stronger to see how strong it is. I want to show you what the anomaly map looks like. This is the anomalies. There you go. See in Greenland, see the dark red? See how it stretches back up into all this area in here? That's all the blocking here. So now we have this feature. There's the upper low. and then this feature. Those two features are going to meet. And there's our ridge on the west coast. See that right there, the ridge on the west coast? So they're going to meet. Okay? And this is how it begins to develop. So this is now here for Saturday night. We have a big low developing over Louisiana. You can see the low right here, developing right there. And then here's our big, strong cold front, maybe even an Arctic cold front coming down. This has got some serious cold air behind it. And then you can see the warm air coming up this way, feeding the moisture in. This is not good for Easter weekend, folks. This has got all sorts of potential severe weather across the deep south, especially if we're getting that strong jet here at 850 and a 500 millibars ripping through here. Very, very worried about all this here. And then let's go to the upper level map. There it is on Sunday. And Easter Sunday, you have the deep trough pulling the cold air into the Midwest. X2 and X3 have now met over the Ohio Valley, the Appalachians, and we have a major storm. Let's take a look at it on the European. Here we go. There it is, bombing out on Sunday morning over the Appalachians. All sorts of severe weather, potentially into Virginia, the Carolinas, down to Georgia, and then even maybe Tennessee, Alabama, eastern Kentucky. There's the cold front coming in, the big Arctic high coming in behind it, and the storm comes up the coast on Sunday night, Easter Sunday, over Philadelphia, and then roaring up the East Coast. Cold air pouring in behind it. It's an Appalachian storm. It's not an East Coast storm, winter storm. I don't think so, but it's got all sorts of severe weather behind it. Now, what is the GFS showing? Nothing. Zero. This is the freaking GFS. Useless piece of crap. And why is the GFS screwing this up? Because, let's take a look at it. Okay, remember this map here? Okay, you see the feature in the southwestern states, X3? Okay, look what the GFS does. Now, initially, at the 108 hours, the GFS does have that feature in the southwestern states. You see that? But look what it does. 144 hours out, it's gone. There's nothing there. So let me, specifically, this feature, where the hell did it go? Oh, well, I'm the GFS. I suck. What can I tell you? I just appalling. Anyway, look, look at the temperatures here. Surface temperature anomalies. Fahrenheit, not centigrade, okay, in the 6 to 10 day. I mean, look at the plains in the Midwest, southern Canada, brutally cold. Even now, of course, the cold air is just getting into day 9 and day 10 into the East Coast behind the cold front. So obviously, we're going to be, this is a change during the day 8, 9, and 10 behind the storm. And then if we look at the temperatures here, now, this is the European model forecast for after the storm goes through on April 12th into the 13th. This is the morning of the 14th. Look at these temperatures in the Shenandoah Valley and the Virginia Piedmont, north central North Carolina, western and central Maryland, West Virginia. This is, these are surface temperatures. If the winds drop off, it could be colder than this with ideal radiational cooling, low humidity. This is bad. A lot of vineyards and food farms have already had bud break, so this could be significant. So I have my work cut out for me with the Virginia vineyards here. I can tell you that if this is right. And that's day 9. This is day 10. Same sort of thing. April 15th, tax day. Not good. There's a lot of cold up in here. A lot of these, like I said, especially the Middle Atlantic, not so much northern Pennsylvania and New England. It's too early for those guys, but all the warm temperatures we've had in the Carolinas, West Virginia, Maryland, that's caused a lot of early growth, and it could be a real problem here. Now, longer term, you can see that the European keeps the pattern pretty cold. Here April 16th, this is, day 11, day 12. Still getting the flow out of Canada, so that state keeps it pretty cold. Look at the flow coming out of Canada. A lot of lines here, and we're still getting energy here in the west going in this way. So it looks pretty wet, it looks pretty cold. The second half of, certainly April 16th to the 22nd, look at these temperatures. That's pretty darn cold for April. And not now, interestingly enough, the GFS, because the GFS misses this feature here, instead what it jumps on the next one, it jumps on this one. See this in the southwestern states? That trough there over California, Nevada, and as a result, the 12Z GFS does this shit. And it's got a big storm on the coast, heavy rain, mountain snows, a big snowstorm for I-95. This is crap. I mean, it's just nonsense. And the 18Z GFS is even weaker with this, so there's no consistency with it. I think the GFS is screwing them. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the GFS has got a clue here. I don't think it does. I think the fact that big upper low here disappears so completely coming out of California is a sign that you should just ditch the GFS until it gets a clue. This is meteorologist DT from Weather Risk. I'll talk to you soon and see you on the Facebook page and on the Twitter page.